So let's go through and start with some funny examples. So we got this CEO who was crying. They were talking about how they had to fire some employees and they were emotional about it. And people were mocking him because it was so over the top. He says, "This will be the most vulnerable thing I'll share. I've gone back and forth of whether to post it. We had to lay off some employees. It's my fault. I made a decision and stuck with that decision for far too long. And I had to do this today. It's the toughest thing I've had to do. Days like this, I wish I was a business owner that was only money driven and didn't care about who he hurt along the way, but I'm not." This is the type of ridiculousness where no one's going to feel sympathy for a CEO, particularly these days when people are kind of struggling financially. When they see someone who's doing well, who can just easily fire someone, no one's going to feel like sympathy for you. And the thing is, when you do see people have these ploys for attention, people always think, well, what is the motive here? Now, this CEO crying on LinkedIn is like a woman whinging on TikTok, because it's all for attention, validation, to get the comfort and attention of others. And it's how they play the victim, right? Now, many workers out there, they post photos of themselves, kind of working hard, things like that. It's like, why are you doing these things? It's just to get attention and validation. It's quite obvious. It's kind of fake. Now, and I think a lot of managers, they need to wake up that people are not falling for any of the corporate lies anymore, just the same way they're not falling for the lies from the media or the government anymore. And all this like political correctness, this control over free speech, all these type of things, it's just not working. The lies in general just aren't working. So if he didn't post about it, which would have been, good for him, so his company doesn't get this negative press. Or if he was going to post about it, just be kind of logical. We're a profit-driven company. We have to make some cuts to move our company forward because we're making a change in our business strategy, and that's why we made the job cuts. People would prefer that rather than this fake kind of attention seeking. So we've got a funny example here of a marketing manager on LinkedIn. Remember, this is LinkedIn, this isn't Facebook. And he's talking about proposing to his girlfriend. Now, again, there's no need to propose to your girlfriend and then post about it on LinkedIn for attention. But this is how ridiculous LinkedIn cringe has become. He's giving some business advice on the basis of proposing to his girlfriend. It's a numbers game. If you say the right thing to enough people, eventually someone will say yes, which kind of sounds cringe. It sounds like you're a desperate man looking for any woman to say yes to marry you. But it's ridiculous to kind of draw the parallel between proposing to your girlfriend for marriage and the work life and being a salesperson, for example. Being ambitious, point 3 here is around being ambitious. You might not be the perfect candidate, but if you meet 50% of the criteria, it's still worth applying. It's like comparing being in a relationship and proposing in a marriage to applying for a job is just completely ridiculous, right? And there's many copycats, and we'll look through a funny copycat of this, right? You see these simps at work and you see these simps at women, and it's like another sign that the West has fallen, right? The downfall of the West that Oswald Spengler or Julius Evola might post about in their books. It really does make me think about what drives this type of dynamic, right? Where it's like men are simping for their corporations and simping for their woman at the same time. It's kind of funny and ridiculous. And it's like everything doesn't have to be about work or workism, careerism, which is this obsession with work, right? And the examples are points 5 and 6, understanding the process. There might be under candidates, several rounds of interviews and competency-based tests. Point 6, check the preferred format. Even though a video is more convenient, many people prefer to do it in person. It's kind of like, it's just levels of cringe that are just beyond just anything that could be deemed as kind of funny, right? And it's like, what is the state of these type of corporate simps, if we want to use that word? It's like the bottom of the social hierarchy, like say pandering as corporate slaves to their company or to the corporate culture on LinkedIn, and also this domesticated house pet for their wife, right? It's like happy corporation, happy life, happy wife, happy life. It's kind of weird. And what's funny is after he posted that, then other people started posting their own version of it. And we got Brian Shankman, who did something like this. So I'm not sure who was first. Maybe this guy was the first guy to do it. But he's mentioning on point 3, again, in terms of proposing to his girlfriend and what it taught him about B2B, business-to-business sales. What level of cringe is this? But we're going to go through just one point here. Demo. If you're confident there is a strong fit, showing your product to potential buyers is essential. Don't simply speak to the features or functionality. Explain the results the other person can expect. Ideally, include a trial so they can try the product and get a feel for it. It's like, how are you combining your proposing to your girlfriend to a relationship at work, a business relationship. The thing is, it really does make you think about the dynamic in people's relationship when they do something like this. Like, to what extent are they in a genuine relationship, or is it just for social status, just to get attention on social media? And it combines the transactional nature of relationships in people's personal lives to business transactional relationships, right? We hear this term about the dating marketplace, and then when you compare that to work or the business environment, it kind of makes sense. Everything's kind of superficial here. And it's like, okay, if we look at point 5, negotiations, there will be concessions. One party might want something that the other party isn't willing to give up. Knowing what you care about most and working hard to get it is important. For the things you care less about, be prepared to concede and give in to the other party. It's like, again, this happy wife, happy life narrative, and it's just shows you how there are lots of people who post like this and they do it without being concerned. They don't have any self-awareness. Like, people like me or you would have some self-awareness. Should I actually go on LinkedIn and try and draw a parallel between proposing for marriage and business-related matters? And these people don't, because this is the normal culture for them. And they feel perfectly comfortable in a lot of these corporate environments. Next up, we've got this funny thing where, well, she's being serious, but what I'm saying is the level of cringe has become so normalized that there's people kind of giving training on how to post this cringe and make it work. She's saying, have you ever used the phrase, I'm excited to announce, or I'm humbled to share? Here's how not to humble brag. So basically she's saying, how do you brag about a new job opportunity or speaking at an event without being too braggadocious, right? Without coming across too arrogant, right? Which is, when I see LinkedIn, right, and like I say, I work as a career coach. If you're new to the channel, I actually try to help people use it in a productive way to find new job opportunities, to reach out to recruiters, network where appropriate. What I don't do is encourage you to post cringe. If you've maybe produced your own report, maybe you're interested in finance, for example, or tech, and you have your own portfolio, you've maybe done some stock analysis, you've done some coding, you've created some example websites to show your ability as a coder or as a web developer, then we might mention that or make a post about it, or like a LinkedIn article to demonstrate your skill level and your competency and how you can do complex things. But there's a whole other breed of people who do this type of stuff, and it's completely normalized. Like, truth is, no one really cares about your story, and everyone's been there where you get an email notification or a notification on LinkedIn, someone's posted on LinkedIn, and it's like, no one cares about their personal stories. So if we look at these two examples here, she's talking about, instead of saying you're excited to announce your new job at XYZ company, you should do this. And I'm just looking at the second to last paragraph here. I'll zoom in a bit there. She says, instead of saying I'm excited to announce my new job at XYZ company, after I got laid off, I felt like it was tough times, finding the motivation to stay upbeat and optimistic. I made many third or final round interviews, but never got the offer. Now I realize my new job at this company was waiting for me. I'm so excited to join this company at new position. I'll grow skills like ABC, lead teams such as this, right? It's just unnecessary. If you've got a new job, you can just add it to your LinkedIn profile. Your entire network doesn't care about your new job, right? Most people are quite envious, so they might know if you move to a new company, you got a pay rise, you got a new job title. And I remember working on the sales and trading division of a major bank, and a co-worker, he was super insecure, and he was always looking at people's LinkedIn profiles and like trying to assess what money they might be making and their salary level and what their job title was. And some other co-worker in our department who was managing a team, even though they were kind of less experienced. And this is what people use LinkedIn for. It's a bit similar to Facebook. A lot of it's about envy. Facebook might be envy about people's personal lives, and LinkedIn is envy about people's professional life. But rather than waste your time doing that, virtue signaling, saying you support the latest social justice cause like ESG or things like that, just use it, like I say, as a professional tool, demonstrate your skills and network where appropriate. And I think there is, and it links back to the article I started with, there is a kind of level of disillusion that people should just expect now with corporations too. Like, don't keep testing people's patience or think they're going to play along with this charade. Because the second type of employee, the second personality type I mentioned, who typically like my show, want to work for money rather than just fit in with corporate culture or LinkedIn culture. They just want to use LinkedIn legitimately. They want to earn a good income. They want to live a good life. And my career advice, and I deal with my clients one-on-one, is to use LinkedIn for profit, demonstrating your skills, successfully find new jobs, and that's the purpose of the tool. Here we've got an interesting case of someone who's using divorce. Again, we saw someone proposing to their wife at the start of a marriage, and now we're seeing someone who's divorced and they're leveraging this to reference their circumstances in terms of business career lessons. My wife of 25 years old asked me for a divorce this morning. These past few years have been a really tough financial burden for us. I am okay with the decision. I've been able to consistently keep up my end of the bargain. Again, showing the transactional nature of relationships. We don't have traditional relationships, we have transactional relationships. Once someone's no longer useful to you, people tend to kind of overlook you. So now it goes back to the kind of transactional nature of relationships, right? Once he's no longer useful to his wife, she's seeing him as a burden financially, so she's kind of trying to end the relationship, end the marriage, which could impact their kids too, if they have any, right? So it's talking about how he couldn't keep up his end of the bargain. He doesn't blame her. Could I have prevented it? Maybe. Did I do everything in my power to make things work? Things like this. Why am I sharing it on LinkedIn? Layoffs and terminations are not just a paycheck killer. Families are affected. Mental health is affected. And of course, finances too. I don't want empathy or sympathy, but all messages telling me things will be okay. Maybe my situation will spread some awareness to always do more than you think you are doing. The economy isn't doing so well, but you can always keep trying to do the right thing. Have tough conversations before it's too late. And yes, it is your fault. Do more, do better, be better. This is like a ridiculous level of lack of self-awareness, but many people are responding to this. You can see 63 comments at the bottom, 5 reposts, so people do like it in some sense. I'm sure they're not all 63 people mocking him, and there's 341 reactions, and they all look like generally positive from what I can see. It's just generally how things work now, right? So in terms of this weird ploy for attention, he's saying he doesn't want empathy, sympathy, and all these type of positive messages, but that's obviously why someone would post this, for sympathy. And then comparing, like, showing the link between layoffs impacting your personal life. I think that could be an interesting thing, but it just makes you look like a victim. And he's working in fixed operations, warranty, administration, and management. So, relatively professional role. I mean, you should have some self-awareness of where the line is between your personal life and your public life. Because people can come back to this and laugh at you. You might be working at a new company after your layoff, and someone goes to your LinkedIn profile and they're like, this is completely ridiculous. And what you got to understand, like I say, the same way people might feel envy, and that's why a lot of social media people use to evoke envy and get emotional reactions out of people. But also you got people who, they need a laugh. They don't really care about you in your personal life. You're a complete stranger that they work with. So you're posting this on a public platform. You should just keep it personal, because keep your personal life personal and private. Because like I say, people aren't here all to like support you. Can you imagine he's got, let's just say 500 LinkedIn connections, and then maybe 5 of them actually care about him. They might know him on a personal level. And the other 495 will probably be like, oh, this is just some guy I used to work with. Some people think he's a loser. Some people think, like, I don't care, he got a layoff. Some people are like, okay, well, maybe there's a new job opportunity that I can inform him of, that he can work here. They don't really care. You don't want to be doing this type of thing on public platforms. And ending this thing with do more, do better, be better. People are just not going to take the life advice of a man who's kind of publicly posting about his divorce, almost bragging for attention and sympathy after getting a layoff and a divorce. It just doesn't make sense. Here's a funny meme around how, managers typically deal with employees. This is getting posted. This type of content gets posted on LinkedIn sometimes, but also people making fun of LinkedIn and the LinkedIn corporate culture, right? So it shows management and they have a leaking vat of water where there's worker exploitation, low wages, and harsh working conditions. And what's their approach of management? Pizza party. Now, the pizza party or ice cream or buying beer for co-workers is typically how companies save costs to keep people happy, to pretend them that they're included. But typically people like me, people like you watching this, what is happening when there's a pizza party? It's a fake ploy for creating a sense of fake togetherness, and it's just completely ridiculous, right? And then when you have this type of thing, it's kind of obvious. Like, we're not kids, we're adults. You can't really fool me with a pizza that you're looking out for my best interests. And what's funny is that when you point it out in the moment that you're not interested in going to a pizza party, especially when you show you don't care, it really does aggravate them, because they really think you're dumb and they can treat you like a child. They can easily fall. This is another funny aspect of pizza posting or pizza around the context of work. We held a team retreat in Austin in this week, and we had an amazing time working together. We had a big budget for food, but I wanted to save the company some money, so we cooked our team dinners on the dashboard of the rental car. And essentially, there's warm weather. He put the pizza out on the dashboard of the car, so the heat from the sun could cook the pizzas, which is completely ridiculous. And also, he mentioned it didn't work perfectly. The best pizza only cooked halfway through, but the team didn't complain because they understood the importance of optimizing our bottom line. And this is the ridiculousness of this type of culture, which is these corporate simps, however you want to describe them, corporate stooges, the company man, things like that. They just want to demonstrate some kind of life lesson from something that there is no life lesson really, of saying, oh, I want to protect the company's bottom line, save the company some money by not heating up our food in a normal oven in a team retreat, by cooking it through the sun's heat. Completely ridiculous. Also a health risk because, it might not be cooked properly. This is the type of funny things you will see. If you're working for a company, you shouldn't be worrying about saving the company money. You're probably already saving the company money because you're underpaid for your job. And yeah, it's just completely ridiculous. And why would you care about optimizing the company's bottom line, looking at budget cuts for the company? They have no problem, like he says here, little budget cuts can go a long way for the company. It's just like, they're not going to care about cutting your job when there's time for the company to make job cuts and have layoffs. You shouldn't be that concerned with them. And then again, another funny explanation of companies thinking pizza is the leverage to take advantage of you. Managers, okay, for this year, everyone needs to come back to the office. Workers, why should we leave remote work? We are more productive, feel better, and are way happier. Managers, this is funny because family, and then there's just a pizza box, right? It's so funny because you've always been there. I remember many instances where they'd give free pizza or ice cream, like the manager would buy ice cream for the team members, and you're like, we're all adults here. Like, this isn't gonna convince me of anything. Like, you're more loyal to me. I have to play along with this. And this is what I mean. When people are working from home, they're getting the work done. They're doing what the company wants, but they're just dragging people back to the office. If you're working from home, you're productive, you're physically healthier, you're more positive, and all of those 3 Ps, productivity, physical health, and positivity, because you have more free time to do what you want, is all worth more than the other P, which is pizza and your fake work family, right? It doesn't make sense. And like, who wants to work? There is really a dividing line. Let's say people who like my content versus people who fit in with the corporate culture. Who wants to work from home and who wants to return to the office? That's really a dividing line. It's like an IQ test. It's like a compliance test of what personality type you are. And it really splits the workforce between who's at work to earn money, who's typically the people who work from home, and people who just want to be seen, who play the social game, which is the RTO, return to office types. Now we've got this other funny meme, which is around, well, someone being genuine, a manager saying, I can't believe my junior sent me this. Today's kids are something else. He stayed late in the office, so now he's going to show up late to the office to make up for it. What a move. So essentially, an employee was working quite late at 8:30 p.m. They left the office quite late, and then they decided to come into work the next day a bit later because they had to work late, which is perfectly reasonable request. And I've done it myself, and the managers do react quite negatively. But it's like, there's no point giving me these tasks where you like demand it's done the same day when I know typically it's not that urgent, but you just create this fake urgency, which managers typically do. And then they get upset when you want to work your work hours and you want to arrive late the next day. Now, this particular instance is interesting because she refers to her junior employee has today's kids. And this is what happens, right? You could be a grown man, like 20, 25, older, or woman, grown man or woman, and then you have these management who see you like a kid, even though you're a grown adult. And I understand they might think, oh, you haven't had as much life experience, you're a bit more junior, you're a bit naive, or things like that. But it's like, this is how they insult you. Like, you're a grown adult, but they treat you like a child or a slave, right? And like I say, it's perfectly respectable. The companies, they don't respect employees' time. They didn't respect my time when I had to work late on several occasions. I remember many times where we'd have like a company deadline where there was a genuine deadline, but in the workflow of that, some other people have been late and they give me work late. And for example, there's one instance around foreign exchange where we had to attest that the company's meeting the industry association's requirements, like an FX code of conduct. And what would happen is other people who'd done their tasks, they would give it to me and go, oh, we need it in 2 days from now. And it's like, this is going to take me several days to actually go through in detail. I'd have to stay late on 2 or 3 days to get it done. And that's what I ended up doing to get this work done. And this is the type of culture that they create, where it's like, oh, we're going to give you work, but there's not enough time to do it. So you end up having to be there late, even if they say you don't have to be there late. It's a completely like their passive aggressive power game that they can play. And if they don't respect your time, they're not paying you overtime, they have a failure in process and you have to pick up for it. I think you should be perfectly reasonable in expecting that they're flexible with their time as they are expecting you to be flexible with your time. If they expect you to stay late, then they should be comfortable with you starting later to make up for the time you've lost in your personal life. And like I say, they will always play these mind games, pretend it was your choice to stay late, that you could have done it the next day, when actually you didn't have time and you had to do it that day. This is a funny post. Someone says, happy to announce that finally, after 4 years of hard work, it's paid off. My manager got promoted, right? And this is typically what happens, right? I've seen this many times where managers benefit from your hard work and ideas, where you might share ideas with your manager, then they go to a forum or more broader team meeting and present their ideas, which are actually your ideas that you told them before. And this is why I always advise you what you're saying to people, who the witnesses are, what type of forum it is. If you've got any good ideas, try to share it in a public setting where, when I say public setting, I'm somewhere where management or senior management will see that and realize that's coming from you and not maybe a co-worker who you gave an idea to, who's taking the credit for it, or your manager. I've seen a lot of these things where they take credit for your hard work or ideas. Make sure your name is on the work that's being done. If it's getting sent to senior management, if you're sharing it in a larger forum of team meetings and things like that, it's up to you how you kind of process that. An interesting perspective here is around loyalty. There's another meme that's come up around the LinkedIn culture. I work for money. If you want loyalty, hire a dog. Now, that's kind of funny, but this whole concept of a company you work for treating you like a bit of a slave, like a pet dog, like a joker or court jester, where not only do you have to do the work, you have to be very charismatic and comical in the office, like some kind of court jester or joker in trying to entertain the king or the slave master, you know? It really does make you think about how companies think you're motivated. If they think you're fooled by a pizza party, what is the mindset they think when it comes to work? And they don't like it when you set clear barriers and boundaries. You know, they can't manipulate your emotion with a job title, with gossiping about your personal life or getting involved in workplace gossip. When they feel like you're just there for what you're basically there to do, which is to work and earn money, to offer them work in exchange for their money. They don't like it when you're absolutely blunt about what it is. Now, I'm sure this photo was staged. She probably wasn't sitting at her desk all day doing that. But it does remind me of, you know, other instances where people have kind of been pushed a bit too much to play along with a corporate charade for a bit too long, right? And it's very interesting because they think they can fool you with all these things that aren't money, whether it's a job title, a dry promotion where you get promoted and don't really have a pay rise, but just a lot of extra work with a new job title. And also when it comes to team events, right, that you don't want to attend. You're not going to a team event after work where you're not getting paid overtime for the sake of it. You work for money. It's simply a transactional relationship, but the company and the manager, the way they operate, they want to make it seem like it's about absolutely everything apart from that transactional relationship of transacting work for money. And the truth is everything else is a distraction, but it's all these sleight of hands, illusions, tricks that they play to fool you. And here we've got this LinkedIn effect where it talks about how, a bit like a car salesman, people kind of completely lie and manipulate about their car that they're selling in the sense of a car salesman, but in terms of people's skills, they completely lie and exaggerate it. So for example, number one, it's talking about how Jane, who's used ChatGPT a few times, and then she talks about her alter ego where she's been an AI evangelist, she's an expert in ChatGPT, worked on every other AI tool to 10x her productivity. And this is what I mean about, you know, doing little and then pretending like your experience was a lot. People do a lot of this in their CV too, as part of corporate culture. Bragging, pretending to be an expert or a guru, and also focusing on trending topics, right? Whether in this case it be AI and ChatGPT. And it's kind of important because on LinkedIn, recruiters do search for these type of terms depending on the industry niche. You put all the buzzwords, the latest coding language, for example, if you work in tech, AI, for many industries. Things like this might stand out when recruiters are searching for employees to reach out to hire for new roles. In the second example, we've got Carlos, who's in reality a team of one, which means he's self-employed or a freelance marketer. And then on his LinkedIn profile, his alter ego, he's head of marketing, project manager, SEO, PPC, expert, a team and guiding spirit. And there's so many different buzzwords here, right? Expert, passionate, things like that. And this is the thing about that LinkedIn corporate culture, where they want you to make it seem like the job just isn't a job, it's more of your life purpose, which is kind of an interesting dynamic, and it's part of the whole charade you've got to keep up with. Then we move on to number 3. Now, Amir, who's a struggling freelancer, that's in reality, but on LinkedIn alter ego, he's a CEO and founder of his own company. He's an entrepreneur, a thinker, building the future. Forbes 1 under 1000, which is like a play on Forbes 30 under 30, where they focus on the top entrepreneurs or thinkers in the world based on their age, anyone under 30, things like that. So essentially, I mean, this is basically showing the difference between the reality and the way people present themselves. And typically we're used to that maybe on a Facebook, on an Instagram, people portraying a fake positive version of their life, or only having the highlights of the good points, but you don't see all the struggles that they might be dealing with. And this is, again, like the type of like pointless buzzwords that typically help people stand out, right? Being a thinker, future builder, it doesn't really make sense. But again, everything on LinkedIn, the same way when you go to the office and you might have to wear a tailored suit or be fake nice and things like that, that's really how LinkedIn works. And then we've got the last example here, which is Hannah, right? She talked at an event once. Now she's presenting herself on LinkedIn as an international speaker, big talker, thought leader, future TEDx speaker, industry expert. It's so easy to exaggerate yourself as a full-time professional if you do something once, right? And repeating the same thing slightly different ways. A speaker, talker, leader, a TEDx speaker, expert, and it's like expert at like what's going on here, right? And it's like a leader you've never heard of. Typically, if someone's a leader, they would have somewhat a reputation that is worthwhile, right? But typically, you look into these people and there's just a nobody presenting themselves like that. Now, what's interesting here is we have a corporate simp. Spotify mentions continuing to work remotely in this particular post. Many people with thumbs up, but then you have someone called Amber Farrenholtz. She says, I always disagreed with remote working. How is it possible to stay sober if you're an alcoholic or have a drug problem? How is it possible to stay on task when you're watching a movie, TV show, or sporting event? How do remote workers stay focused with distractions such as pets, kids, and household chores? I think companies are ignorant, blah, right? So essentially, like I say, when you have a corporate simp like this, a busybody, a teacher's pet, a hall monitor, it's like a personality type, the type of person who maybe run for school president, try to boss around the other kids at school if they're not following the school rules. It's the same type of personality type that typically do well in these type of corporate environments. And when she's talking about, people not being able to stay sober if they're working from home, that's a personal issue that shouldn't impact everyone who wants to work from home. Many people who work from home do it very efficiently. They get all their work done and their chores done during work hours, 9 to 5, working from home. But it's not their fault that they have to appeal to whoever's the weakest in society. And this is a common trend you see in society. You see in corporate culture now, everything about being about equality, feelings, the weakest part of society. So just because a handful of people can't stay sober, everyone has to change their work habits and work in the office, right? It kind of doesn't make sense. And you see this all the time, right? People can really monitor themselves and manage their own distractions, childcare, things like this. They don't need a teacher, babysitter, which most managers are. And I would hazard to guess that this Amber Farrenholtz is some kind of middle manager who's a busybody in the office, doesn't do loads of work, maybe delegates a lot of it. And if everyone else can, all these other thumbs up shows people are happy working from home, then why can she not see the benefits too, right? I've worked in the finance industry for over 10 years at top firms like Goldman's, Morgan Stanley, and so on. And I offer career advice, link in the description if you want to speak with me directly so we can navigate through this type of corporate environment. Let me know in the comments some of the LinkedIn cringe you've seen. What do you think about these particular examples? 2 recommended videos on the screen right now, and I'll see you next time.